doing research for HCIC4, I came across this video clip.
Making people bake a cake for a gay wedding.
Making them do it?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
But here's the argument, so should they be able to deny making a cake for a black couple if they don't like black people?
Allowed to? Probably. That doesn't mean it's right.
Okay, so then we had the civil rights movement, where they said black people, you had to serve them in your restaurants and stuff like that, and it did work, and it did make our society better, but would you argue that that still wasn't right?
No, that was right.
Why is that different to now if you didn't want to make a cake for black people?
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not different. Yeah. Maybe I was wrong about that.
The person who tweeted the clip also asked, how had Jordan Peterson never heard this extremely basic counter-argument to his position before? And followed up with, some of the same people that think Peterson is one of the greatest intellectuals of the modern age are now telling me it's unfair to expect him to be familiar with the Civil Rights Act. While I do like some of Jordan Peterson's work, I'm not here to be a Peterson apologist. He fumbled this question pretty badly, but whether he truly doesn't know or was simply put on the spot, there is an answer to this question that isn't just complete capitulation.
Making people bake a cake for a gay wedding.
What the host is colloquially referring to is the Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission court case, which recently wrapped up. And in this colloquial reference to the case, he misrepresents the details of the situation. I don't think he did it maliciously. The phrase, bake the cake, rolls off the tongue easily, has become a sort of a catchy meme, and has since entered the public lexicon as shorthand for this situation. However inaccurate it actually is. Hell, it's why I used it too. I wanted you to click on this video after all. But here's the actual details of the case, from the court documents. In 2012, Charlie Craig and David Mullins made plans to be married in Massachusetts because their home state of Colorado did not at the time allow gay marriages. Gay marriages would not become legal in all 50 states until 2015 with the Obergefell versus Hodges case. The two decided to prepare for their celebration by visiting the Masterpiece Cake Shop run by Jack Phillips to order a cake for their wedding. Phillips informed him that he does not, in his words, create wedding cakes for same-sex weddings. He explained, I'll make your birthday cakes, shower cakes, sell you cookies and brownies, I just don't make cakes for same-sex weddings. Phillips explained that he does not create wedding cakes for same-sex marriages because of his religious opposition, and also because Colorado at that time did not recognize such marriages. He later explained his belief that to create a wedding cake for an event that celebrated something that directly goes against the teachings of the Bible would have been a personal endorsement and participation in the ceremony and relationship that they were entering into. And just so we're clear, Phillips is a devout Christian who has explained that his main goal in life is to be obedient to Christ's teachings in all aspects of his life, and that he seeks to honor God through his work at the Masterpiece Cake Shop. To Phillips, creating a wedding cake for a same-sex marriage would be the equivalent to participating in a celebration that is contrary to his most deeply held beliefs. This is why it's not simply baking a cake, and why Phillips used the term create multiple times in the court documents to describe the process of generating a new cake. When you simply bake a cake, frankly, there's not much original input to it. You follow a cookbook properly and you get a cake. But creating a cake, that's a different matter.
Making them do it?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
And here's why it's not a good idea. Look at these cakes, and tell me that these aren't something more, something larger, than following the instructions on the back of a Betty Crocker just add water cake mix box. If movies are art, if video games are art, then it seems pretty clear to me that custom-made cakes can certainly be considered art as well. And when you get into the government forcing people to create art they disagree with, that's the realm of compelled speech.
But here's the argument, so should they be able to deny making a cake for a black couple if they don't like black people?
Allowed to? Probably. That doesn't mean it's right.
That's actually the right answer, believe it or not. If I knew of a local shop that I frequented that refused to sell goods to black people, assuming that it were still legal to do so, I would stop frequenting that shop. And I think, as the word got out, a lot of people would also stop frequenting that shop as well. Despite what social justice warriors say, the Western world is not a hotbed of racism and misogyny. The Western world is actually incredibly tolerant. A shop that refused to sell to black people in this day and age would probably go out of business, because not only would it not get any money from potential black customers, it also would not get any money from non-black customers who wouldn't stand for their fellow citizens being treated that way. Nonetheless, it wasn't always like that, and refusing to sell to a customer based on their skin color was made illegal back during a time in which it was actually a serious problem, as the host goes on to describe here.
Okay, so then we had the civil rights movement, where they said black people, you had to serve them in your restaurants and stuff like that, and it did work, and it did make our society better, but would you argue that that still wasn't right?
This is a nonsense question, and I'm a little disappointed Peterson didn't call him out on it. The two positions aren't mutually exclusive. I would argue that giving businesses the freedom to discriminate, and potentially lose a fatal amount of business for doing so, as well as forcing businesses to serve the entire population fairly, are both viable solutions to the problem. The reason the second solution was implemented is because at the time, public opinion on race in the United States would have made the first solution ineffectual. But that's not the case now. And that's why Peterson says it was right.
No, that was right.
But just because it was right doesn't mean that he was wrong. He was simply caught unprepared.
Why is that different to now if you didn't want to make a cake for black people?
Well, there's actually a few reasons why discrimination based on race in a public restaurant is different than discrimination based on same-sex marriage status in procuring a good or service related to the marriage. 1. In the civil rights example, the black person being refused service at a restaurant, the service the black person was attempting to obtain had nothing to do with his race. He was simply looking to be served food, and the owners of the restaurant made it racially based by refusing him. However, in the example of a same-sex couple obtaining a custom-made cake for their wedding, the service they were attempting to procure was already innately based in their same-sex relationship, before Phillips's objection ever came up. The restaurant that refused to serve black customers forced the issue to be about race, but Phillips did not force the issue to be about homosexuality. It already was from the beginning. If we actually wanted to bring race into it, a more apt example would be, say, a black person going into a tailor's shop and requesting its white supremacist owner to make him a Black Lives Matter shirt. In both of these cases, the shop owners and patrons are directly opposed to each other both in ideology and in the very nature of the work they're requesting. But regarding the restaurant example, there is nothing in the nature of serving food that innately excludes serving black people, leaving only racism as the motivation. 2. If the argument is based in religious faith, the edicts regarding homosexuality in the Bible are a lot more clear-cut than the ones regarding racial discrimination. To be fair, in my opinion, neither of them are all that clear to begin with, but the ones regarding homosexuality still seem to be the clearer of the two, with the whole "don't lie with another man as if he were a woman" part. There's stuff in the Bible regarding slavery, sure, but it's never race-based slavery, and the Bible's got nothing to say about using visible racial characteristics to create a class system either. Phillips' religious objection to creating a custom cake therefore holds a lot more water than anything from the civil rights era. 3. If the argument is based in free speech, the businesses that objected to serving black people back during the civil rights era didn't have a leg to stand on. Whether it was ordering a cup of coffee at a diner, purchasing lumber or tools at a hardware store, getting your car fixed at a mechanic's garage, or studying at a school, none of these things involved violating the free speech rights of the people offering those goods and services. Mass-produced food, basic equipment and materials, and practical services are not artistic endeavors and are not covered by free speech rights. However, the commission of artwork is. And that's really the core of the court case, and also why Masterpiece Cake Shop ultimately won. The Supreme Court ruled that Phillips had provided enough evidence that he was a devout Christian, that he wasn't simply using the excuse of faith to be a dick or whatever, and that the Colorado Human Rights Commission had overstepped its bounds by not taking into account Phillips's faith, and in failing to do so, violated its oath to not discriminate on the basis of religion. In fact, the commission seemed to relish the chance to violate that oath. During the May 30th, 2014 meeting, convened to discuss the case, commissioners endorsed the view that religious beliefs cannot legitimately be carried into the public sphere or commercial domain, and that one commissioner suggested that Phillips can believe what he wants to believe, but cannot act on his religious beliefs if he decides to do business in the state. And in the July 25th, 2014 meeting, another commissioner said, "Freedom of religion has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination, whether it be slavery, whether it be the Holocaust, whether it be, we can list hundreds of situations where freedom of religion has been used to justify discrimination." And to me, it is one of the most despicable pieces of rhetoric that people can use to use their religion to hurt others. If only Europe could take this point of view regarding Islam, almost all your problems would be solved. Oh well. I understand the protection of Phillips's religious rights are important, but in my opinion, it's the free speech rights that are the cornerstone of this case, and significant parts of the court documents are also devoted to the free speech issue as well. But let me simplify it for you. Let's say a gay couple was looking to hire a painter to paint a portrait of the two of them together during their wedding. A painter they approach refuses to do so because he personally objects to their homosexual relationship and marriage on religious grounds. Is that painter an asshole? Probably. But should he be coerced by the state into creating a painting, artwork, he disagrees with? Absolutely not. Because if the state were to step in that manner, they'd be prioritizing the offense of the gay couple's negative reaction to being rejected over the offense of the painter to the gay couple's relationship. The government's role cannot be to stifle free speech in the name of subjective offense, especially in the name of one person's subjective offense over another person's different subjective offense. It's very easy to hand-wave these implications away when it's decorating a cake for a gay couple. But what if it's commissioning artwork for a topic that's not so clear-cut? What if a shady business wants artwork done, and the government compels artists who otherwise would not work for that business due to their practices? What if the government itself wants propaganda made for the military or a political candidate, and compels objecting artists into participating? If we allow any artist, even if their canvas is a cake, to be forced by state power to create artwork they fundamentally disagree with, that is the slipperiest of slopes. Because very soon, it will go from the artwork you can create, to the artwork you must create, to the artwork you must not create. So, to bake or not to bake? Well, sure, bake is the obvious answer, but that's because it's the wrong question. The real question is to decorate or not to decorate. And the only answer to that we can accept is only if you want to. Oh, and let me just indulge a little bit, okay? The main reason I found this clip of Jordan Peterson in the first place was because Ian, a friend of mine from the old Let's Playing crowd I used to run with a few years back, liked it on Twitter. And unfortunately, I guess I'm just burning all of the bridges from that circle at this point in making this video. Back in August of 2017, I made a video called The Moral Equivalence Between the Alt-Right and Antifa. In that video, I responded to two acquaintances of mine from that friend group. People that I knew to be reasonable and rational. Rick, from the D-pad, and Casey, Ian's girlfriend, about how Charlottesville had made them both go off the deep end. And well, I'm now blocked by both of them. I hope it doesn't go that way with Ian, but it has to be said. Jordan Peterson's still right, man. We might joke about things like Trump derangement syndrome, but honestly, the number of friends I've lost, the number of people who went from chill center lefties to radicalized lunatics, is well into the double digits at this point. I mean, they often say it's me who's the radical lunatic now, not them. But it's me, and other people like me, who, for example, forgave the likes of Ian Miles Chong when he pulled himself out of the SJW cesspit and apologized for what he had said and done. Even though Jordan Peterson was wrong to have capitulated on the cake question, what kind of chance do you think that SJWs are actually going to reach for the olive branch that Jordan Peterson extended? The way that you or I would. He's a 56-year-old intellectual, and he had never heard of the simplest and first argument people go to against a position he holds. I'm digging the people that are replying to you that are super proud of him to admitting he was wrong only because he was caught on camera. Jordan Peterson being completely blindsided by the existence of the Civil Rights Act actually just made me respect him more as an intellectual, a human, and a prophet. I too sometimes forget small details like the Civil Rights Act and all of history when I form my political positions. This is why you never give in to these people. Because to them it's not a debate, it's a wedge. When you concede, that's them stuffing the wedge into the crack, and then they're going to spend the rest of that time widening that crack until you break. For us, if a person's made a mistake and is asking for forgiveness, it's usually a good idea to at least give them the chance to re-earn our trust. But for SJWs, they're not interested in second chances or re-earned trust. They're interested in ideological reinforcement and brutal punishment of dissent. And that's why the cake question is so important. For us, it's a matter of free speech. For them, it's a matter of control. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or through other sources. The linked video is a detailed discussion as to why and how, but long story short, a bunch of my equipment decided to all go belly up at once, and while I don't like the idea of shilling, I find myself at an impasse. So if you can pitch in a few bucks, I'd be eternally grateful. And remember, I love you.